You've got $50,000 to spend on a brand new luxury compact sedan. What do you look at? BMW 3 Series or Lexus IS for 2026? I've driven both, reviewed both, and I love both, but for different reasons. Today, I want to break this down, share the specifications, the problems, the reliability, the depreciation, and everything in between, including the common failures of each vehicle. If you've been shopping for one of these great luxury vehicles and you're not exactly sure which way to go, well, by the end of this video, guaranteed you'll know exactly what you're looking for. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
Firstly, I want to talk $50,000 is not going to get you an M340i by BMW. You're really restricted to the 330, so that's the B48 turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. Lexus, on the other hand, only has one IS model left. The IS 350, it's been vastly improved, changed, overhauled, facelifted, if you will. There's no more IS 500, and the IS 300 has gone bye-bye. So really, this breaks down to the BMW 330 and the Lexus IS 350. The IS 350 by Lexus is a naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6 engine, produces about 311 horsepower and about 280 pound-feet of torque. That's all made it up to an 8-speed automatic transmission in the rear-wheel drive format, or if you want the all-wheel drive, you're just going to step up and only get your 6-speed automatic gearbox. Compare that to the 2026 BMW 330i. You can get all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, 8-speed ZF automatic transmission, which I might add is one of the best automatics in the business. Its 2-liter turbo, mild hybrid system offers about 255 horsepower, but the key here is 295 foot-pounds of torque. It's up 15 pounds over the Lexus, and it's over a broader space. It's less linear, and it provides more punch at lower revs. The Lexus IS 350 starts around $47,000, and fully equipped in F-Sport trim all-wheel drive, you can really peak the scales around $50,000. Compare that to BMW's 330, it ranges from about $48,000 all the way up to about $50,675 in all-wheel drive format, which is probably the best comparative. Go all-wheel drive for both models, and you've got yourself a gem. So naturally, as you option things up, BMW can edge up a little bit higher. You can spend a wee bit more in BMW land. The Lexus really doesn't span a lot. There's not as many features and upgrades and options. But that being said, they both have great performance. What kind of performance? Well, from my personal experience, the BMW 3 Series, and in this case, the 330, is a little lighter than the 340 because there's 2 less cylinders. It has a better weight balance, and 0 to 60 comes up in a short 5.3 seconds. Of course, that's all on the back of the 255 horse and about 295 pound-feet of torque. The BMW tends to also, from my experience, feels a lot sharper, crisper, turn-in is faster. Even with the all-wheel drive system, it just feels more agile.
One thing that I've noticed about a lot of these BMWs, they have such a Jekyll Hyde feel to them. A lot of BMWs now, the way they're tuned and their suspension tuning, they're truly amazing. And the reason I say that is they used to be, you know, if you wanted a hardcore car that would work on the track, that would do it well, you sort of had to have that car, and there was no compromise. It was going to be a rough, ragged performance car. And then there was the other way. The only way you'd get that soft, supple ride would be to get something like a 5 Series or something simple and kind of have it dumbed down, and then it would feel luscious and relaxed and chill. But these modern BMWs, and even the 3 Series here, I have to say, is much, much better now. The 3 Series now feels like a 5 Series of 10 years ago. And to be honest with you, the way their suspension tuning goes these days, it actually does a great job of giving you just enough sporty feel. There's enough feedback in the steering. Even though we're talking about electric steering these days, I mean, BMW sort of gave up the hydraulic rack many moons ago. The fact remains is, it handles very, very well. And coming out of a Ferrari 296, also equally with an electric steering setup, I'm not even gonna fit. This actually does feel very, very direct. It's a very nice, comparable steering connection.
The BMW does feel more lively. It does feel more alive. It zips along. And even though it's got slightly less horsepower, it's that torque that gets it out of the hole really quick. And that torque just keeps it moving. That's why the 0 to 60 is a little quicker and sharper and more responsive in the BMW than, even, believe it or not, a naturally aspirated V6 engine over in Lexus land that actually has 311 horse and only 280 pound-feet of torque, because the 0 to 60 on the Lexus is also around 5.5 seconds, making the BMW marginally quicker. So overall, the BMW is sharper, more aggressive, and a little quicker, and the Lexus is smoother and softer and more refined. The exhaust note, way better in the Lexus.
Oh yeah, definitely sounds the part, doesn't it?
As you wind out that linear power band out of the Lexus with the 350, it gives you this glorious howl that comes out of it. It's a naturally aspirated. You don't have the muffling by turbochargers. On BMWs, with the turbo, it does create an additional muffling sound, and it just doesn't sound as good. My personal experience with the B48, it does also sound a little bit more strained, whereas a Lexus sounds a little bit more silky. But it's the fuel economy for some people actually really matters. With today's costs of rising fuel, $2 a liter for gas here just now. And it's absolutely unbearable. So having a vehicle that's a little bit more fuel efficient actually makes sense. And oddly enough, the BMW gets better fuel economy with ratings like 26 to 28 miles per gallon in the city versus the Lexus that only has 19 to 20 miles per gallon in the city. BMW can peak as much as 35 miles per gallon on the highway, while Lexus really kind of resigned to 28 miles per gallon. And each one of those miles per gallon actually makes a difference because the combined fuel economy overall is 31 versus 23, with of course BMW taking the upper hand. It is in fact a 2-liter turbo 4, and sure, while the turbochargers will help you gobble up more fuel if you're really on it, most people driving in day-to-day traffic on and off the gas will find that the BMW is vastly better in terms of fuel economy numbers. That will save you money in the long run. So we know the BMW is faster, sharper, quicker, and has better fuel economy. By default, you're definitely going to want to go BMW, right? Lexus actually has better reliability ratings because according to RepairPal, 2.5 out of 5 star for your average 3 Series BMW, and closer to a 3.5 out of 5 star for the B58, which effectively is the same. So I start to question those ratings a little bit, and the Lexus gets a rating of 4 out of 5 star according to RepairPal. Meantime, Consumers Reports also has its own set of ratings, and we know in fact BMW's been climbing up that ladder, leaving car brands like Acura and Honda in the dust, and all of those brands that we actually trusted, BMW's leaving them all behind and is now fighting head to tail with the likes of Toyota and Lexus, left, right, and center. BMW's gotten a lot better. But according to Consumers Reports, the ratings for Lexus are above average consistently. And there are some caveats with the BMW. A lot of it does depend on the make, the model, the year. And you know, BMW as a whole hasn't necessarily had the best reliability when you're dealing with the V8s or some of the older inline 6s. But since the B48 and the B58 have come along, everything since 2020-21, things have gotten vastly better, and you've noticed them really leapfrogging a lot of their competition. So you want to drive your car as well for a few years. You're thinking about, okay, I'm going to drive it for 4 or 5 years. What is that depreciation? How much am I going to lose when I get out of this? In 5 years, the Lexus is only going to lose about 40% of its original value. Whereas BMW, on the other hand, expect to lose between 50 to 55% of its original value, meaning you will throw a little bit of extra cash out the window. BMW has better fuel economy. Some of those costs are offset by the savings on the fuel. So you might lose a little on depreciation with the BMW, but over 5 years, the amount of fuel savings you've seen probably makes up the difference. Not to mention the BMW has better performance and is sharper and nicer to drive. Now, every vehicle has maintenance costs, and every vehicle does break. Brakes, issues, starters, and water pumps. That's not uncommon for any brand. But that being said, some of the biggest, most typical common failures of each brand, we might as well talk about it. Now, I come from a world where I'm used to paying for some of these German expenses, these cars like BMWs and Mercedes and Audis, and I know what to expect, but a lot of people don't. And they aren't cheap. You know, I have managed to do a water pump thermostat on my old N54 BMW 335 a few years ago, and the parts alone cost me $1,400, and I did it myself, and it took me about 7 or 8 hours on the driveway. So doing that at the shop is likely going to cost you $3,000 or more. It's not a cheap car to look after. The BMW 330 equipped with the B48 engine, you could expect the high-pressure fuel pump, if it goes, to cost between $1,200 and $2,500. On top of that, turbochargers, because it is a turbo car, is between $2,000 to $4,000. And on top of it, cooling system like the water pump and thermostat. I had already mentioned, but on the B48, it's a little more accessible, anywhere from $1,000 to about $1,600 US to do that. That being said, the late models now are mechanical water pumps, and therefore they are a little bit cheaper than the older electric water pumps, which were very problematic. Of course, being a turbo car with the BMWs, you've got more cooling lines, water lines, oiling lines, wastegates, and wastegate rattle can be a problem. So there are definitely more points of failure potentially with the BMW, and as they age, that will be a factor to consider. You have to think about that. But the brand new Lexus IS 350, which features the absolute wonderful 3.5-liter V6 called the 2GR FKS V6, does have its own levels of failures. Water pump leaks, which is not uncommon, and you could expect to spend as much as $600 to $900 to get that retrofitted, all parts in and labor included. As well with the Lexus, suspension, bushings, control arms, they tend to be a little more fragile. BMW builds them, almost overbuilds them, almost over-engineers them, and they tend to last. The Lexus brakes, suspension parts tend to be a little bit flimsier. If you're driving it hard or on rough roads or potholes and cracks in the roads, you might find an accelerated wear. Any repairs that you might incur may look like $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 to fix a whole front end if it happens to develop knocks and clinks and clunks because of some of the rough roads you've been driving on. We also have to think about the 8-speed automatic transmission. We know because it's associated with Toyota, and Toyota has been struggling lately with some of those 8-speed automatic transmissions. They're great when they're good, but sometimes there have been issues. And of course, without maintenance, they will and have been known to potentially burn out. So be aware of that. A bad transmission that will fail, which is in very low numbers and a very low probability, can also reach $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. That would be a big one. Not a typical failure, but BMW definitely has a better gearbox. But on that note, why don't we just talk about overall durability and how long these vehicles can actually last. I mean, BMWs are more high-strung, they're turbocharged. We know you're putting more internal pressure, more thermal capacity is being consumed. These engines that are more efficient often run harder with higher internal pressures, higher internal temperatures, means the BMW is stressed a lot more. And as you would expect, it's not likely going to last as long. Now, the expected lifespan of the average BMW 330 these days is going to be in the range of 2 to 250,000 miles. Now with a 250,000 mile lifespan, if a person drives the average car for 10,000 miles, that's 20 years before it's garbage or throwaway. By that time, who's driving that car anymore? That's relegated to pretty much beater duty. And by that time, it's depreciated down to $5,000 or $6,000 and nobody even cares anymore. A car that will last 250,000 miles is really all you can ever ask of a vehicle these days. That being said, if you're one of these drivers that wants to keep your car for 20, 25 years, and maybe you put tons of miles on it, the Lexus IS 350 has been chartered and known to run at least 300,000 to 400,000 miles. So it's going to go even further, much further, probably 50%, 80% further than your average BMW 330. So if keeping your vehicle for, 20, 25 years is the game plan, and this is the last end-all be-all car for you, no question.
The only thing, as I say, downfall to this car is the fact that it actually seems to be lacking a little bit. All of the other brands are still driving ahead, trying to be competitive. I mean, again, you look at the Giulia, you look at the BMW 3 Series and Audi S4, and they're all trying to step their game up in technology and performance. Some of them sure going with a Turbo 4, some of them Turbo 6s, but whatever it is, they're delivering more economy and better performance. Now, I gotta wonder for longevity. I think the ultimate question and the elephant in the room has to do with reliability, and I think that's why Lexus sticks with what they know. We've got the V6, 3.5 liters here, old news, nothing special, but it still works well. It's strong enough to keep things entertaining and light, and the fact of the matter is it's gonna run for 500,000 miles, guaranteed, no questions asked.
But if you want to drive today and enjoy the car's performance, the sound, and even get some of their dollars back in the form of gas savings, the BMW might be your game. BMW's reliability has come a long way. This is not the same engine that BMWs drove with 10 or 15 years ago. This is vastly better and more reliable. Let's talk about the kind of driver you might be. If you're looking for better driving dynamics, better fuel economy, and even better, more modern technology with a higher quality feel interior-wise, then the BMW is clearly your game. If you're looking more for proven reliability, longevity, a long-term lower ownership cost, and a vehicle that likely will spend a little bit less time in the repair shop, then the Lexus is your answer. So while I personally have a special affinity for both those vehicles, the Lexus clearly has that durability, a great sounding engine, although it's a bit of a gas guzzler and the interior technology is a little bit old and dated.
Well, it's not exactly the most spacious back here, but I'd say it's pretty much in line with the current 3 Series BMWs. It definitely does feel the part. A little snug, but again, it works for a vehicle that's intended to be largely sporty and luxury, kind of blended and melded together.
Unfortunately, this facelift also gave it a face that looked more like a Toyota Corolla, and it doesn't look as sharp as even a year or 2 years older. That being said, the BMW always has that sharper driving experience, and I've always fell in love with the BMW's driving dynamics. So I really do love both, and they're very, very hard to decide. For $50,000, which way do you go, the BMW or the Lexus? You tell me. I'd like to hear your thoughts. On that note, the only BMWs I would probably buy for 2026, right there. The only Lexus vehicles I would buy for 26, right there. If you find value at all in this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I really hope you come back for the next one. You all have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you real soon, everybody. Bye-bye.